Greetings and welcome to another episode of the Sanctuary Message. We continue from where we ended. In our previous episode, we looked at the material that was used in the sanctuary, and we looked at the meanings, and we did not exhaust all of those materials and the meanings which were used in the sanctuary. We hope by the grace of God, in this particular presentation, we shall handle what was left as we look at the construction of the sanctuary. When we read the book of Exodus chapter 25, reading on verse 8 and 9, the Bible tells us the following: "And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them, according to all that I shew thee, after the pattern of the tabernacle, and the pattern of all the instruments thereof. Even so shall ye make it." And when we read on verse 40 of the same chapter 25 of Exodus, the Bible tells us, "And look that thou make them after their pattern, which was showed thee in the mount." I will also draw your attention to the book of Hebrews chapter 8. Hebrews chapter 8. The Bible tells us the following. The book of Hebrews chapter 8. "Now of the things which we have spoken, this is the sum. We have such an high priest, who is set on the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heavens, a minister of the sanctuary, and of the true tabernacle, which the Lord pitched, and not man. For every high priest is ordained to offer gifts and sacrifices. Wherefore it is of necessity that this man have somewhat also to offer." We shall end here for now. According to the three scriptures that we have read, verse 9 of Exodus chapter 25, verse 40, and Hebrews chapter 8, verse 2, the Bible clearly indicates when Moses was called into the Mount of Sinai to be given instructions as to how the sanctuary was supposed to be constructed, he was told in every particular detail of how the sanctuary was supposed to be constructed, how it was supposed to look, the width, the length, and every article in their details were told to Moses. And after he was told, then he was also shown. That is why the Bible says, be sure to make the sanctuary, to construct the sanctuary after the pattern which was showed unto you in the mount. Meaning, in the heavens, there is a sanctuary, as we have been told, not a sanctuary that has been pitched by man, not the earthly sanctuary, not the one which was constructed in the wilderness, and not the one which was constructed by Solomon in Jerusalem or at Jerusalem, but there is a sanctuary in heaven. And after this sanctuary was the earthly sanctuary, constructed. So we have an heavenly sanctuary, and every service that is performed in this sanctuary, even up to now, is what was also supposed to be copied and pasted in the earthly sanctuary, so that man, as we were talking about, or as we discovered, so that man could find redemption from sin. Now, this is how the sanctuary was constructed. The sanctuary had four sides. It had the western, the eastern, the southern, and the northern sides. The first part of the sanctuary was the outer court. Let us take keen interest, let us follow closely so that no one remains behind. The first part of the sanctuary was the outer court or the courtyard. This courtyard was surrounded by the fence. The fence had its length 100 cubits on the southern side and on the northern side. And then it had 50 cubits on the eastern side and on the western sides. 50 cubits each. And a cubit, as we all know, is equal to 45.72 centimeters. Then we can calculate and find how many meters in meters, how many meters were, was the length of the sanctuary and was the width of the sanctuary. So this was the courtyard. In the length, that is on the northern side and on the southern side, there were 20 poles which were erected. And then on the eastern and on the western side, there were 10 poles which were erected. And then the entrance to the sanctuary, or let me say the entrance to the courtyard, was on the eastern side. If someone was to go into the sanctuary or into the courtyard, they were supposed to enter through the gates, or through the gate which was, there were 3 gates. There were 3 gates on the eastern side of the sanctuary. So everyone who went into the courtyard, they entered through the gates on the eastern side of the sanctuary. So that anyone who enters, his back is going to be against the sun, and he is going to face God's throne, or the holy place, the most holy place, on the western side. We shall look at some of these things to know why the Lord had, instructed that the sanctuary should be constructed in this manner. Why enter on the eastern side? The reason why the Lord permitted that the sanctuary should have its gate on the eastern side, it was because the people of that time, a practice or tradition of men and women, or of the religious men and women of this world, to worship their God, to worship on a particular day, on Sunday. The practice of people worshiping on Sunday dates as far back as the times of Nimrod. Those days, they started worshiping, or they used to worship the sun, and this has continued over the ages. It has continued from that time down to our time, the practice of worshiping the sun. So the sun rises from the east. So if people entered through the western side and then faced the east, it meant they would be worshiping the sun. So to avoid the confusion, God does the exact opposite of